Hello everyone, welcome to the 225 Q&A practice. Defense is going to start off questioning. Here we go, ready? Were they having any health problems which caused any anxiety to you? No. And is that also current up to January 1st of 2010? Yes. And by way of explanation, I think you indicated in 2010 you felt some family pressure. My father would go to the hospital. It's possible that at that time he was in the hospital. Do you know when he went into the hospital after April 8, 2009, about a year? And for what reason did he go into the hospital, if you know? Emphysema. And into what hospital was he admitted? Kaiser in Fontana? Yes. And how long was he hospitalized in 2010? About a week. And when he was discharged, did he then go home? Yes. Was your mother ever hospitalized in 2010? No. Did you live with your parents in 2010? Off and on. Where did they live at that time, that year? In Colton. At what address? 915 West Valley. Was your father employed in 2010? No. Was he retired from work? Yes. Did your mother work in 2010? Yes. Where did she work? Chino School District. In what capacity? Teacher. What age group or school? Adult education. Was it night education? No. What subjects did she teach? Consumers report and accounting. Is she still working for the Chino School District? No. Did she resign or retire or otherwise leave? Retire. When did she retire? Last year. 2012? Yes. Do your parents still live together? Yes. In Colton? No. Where do they live now? Lytle Creek. Does either one have any employment outside the home? No. Does either one have any employment inside the home for income? No. Do you have any sisters or brothers? Yes. How many? 2 sisters, 1 brother. Okay, what are your sisters' names? Wyona and Sherry. Wina? Yes, yes. What is Wyona's date of birth? I don't know. Does she know the year? Do you know the year? She's 3 years younger than me. Okay, what is your date of birth? 5/16/77. Okay, 35. I didn't want to ask that. Wyona is 3 years younger. Where does she live at this time? Idaho. Is she married? Yes. What is her married name? Wisert. Wisert. Wissert. I'm sorry, what's your other sister's name? Sherry. As in the beverage? Sure, yes. And her date of birth? I do not know. Do you know how old she is? She's 11 months older than I am. And does Sherry have the same parents that you do? Yes. And does Wyona? Yes. And when you were growing up as a youngster, did you reside with your sisters? Yes. And I think you mentioned you had a brother? Yes. What is his name? Robert. Do you recall his date of birth? No. Do you know if he's older or younger than you? He's 5 years older than I am. And did he reside in the family home? Yes, he did. How long did you live with your parents? Until I got married the first time. And when was that? The first time I got married? Oh, geez. It's hard to remember the year. I'd say got out of high school in 98. After you married him, basically, did you live apart from your parents, or have you lived with your parents since that time? Say that again. Okay, good question. After 1998, when you were first married, have you lived with your parents for any substantial period? And by substantial period, more than a couple of weeks. Since I was married the first time, did I live with my parents after the marriage? Yes. And when after you were first married, did you first live with your parents? Approximately 4 months after. And how long did you live with them at that time? 11 months. And was that with your husband? No. You were separated from him? Yes. Where did he live at that time? He was in the Gulf. In the service? Yes. And you were divorced from your husband, which I didn't note, but you were divorced from your first husband? Yes. I'm not trying to. Approximately what year were you divorced from him? I believe we were married for almost 6 years. During that 6-year period, you mentioned that for a 11-month period, you lived with your parents because he was, if not because, but when he was in the Gulf War, did you reside with your parents during the remainder of that marriage for more than a couple of weeks? Oh, no. Okay, and you were divorced from him and then married Mr. Bueller? Yes. And during your marriage to him, were you ever separated from Mr. Bueller? Yes, in a legal sense, and you're not an attorney, but did you separate from him in the sense that you wanted to reside apart from him? Yes. And how many times did that occur? Once. And for what period of time? 3 weeks. And in what year? That was the year we were getting our divorce. During that period of time that you were separated from Mr. Bueller, in anticipation or during the divorce, did you live with your parents? Which divorce are you talking about? From Mr. Bueller? Yes. So during that 3-week period, did you live most of the time with your parents? Yes. And after the divorce, did you continue to live with your parents? No. Where did you live after the divorce? Mobile home. Did you live alone? Yes. You've indicated you went to the emergency room or hospital down the street, and a day or 2 days later, you saw Dr. Barrett in Alta Loma? Yes. And at that time, you expressed what physical symptoms you experienced and generally how you felt? Yes. Have you ever been hospitalized overnight in a hospital since seeing Dr. Barrett following the accident of April 8, 2009? Yes. Where have you been hospitalized? Redlands Community Hospital. Okay, any other hospital? No. When were you first hospitalized at Redlands Community Hospital? Are you talking before the accident? At any time. I thought he said after. I did earlier. I did ask you when after the accident were you ever hospitalized. You've indicated Redlands Community Hospital. I am now asking you when in your lifetime were you first hospitalized at Redlands Community Hospital. When in my lifetime? When in my lifetime? You're a young lady. Before this time or after this time? I'm mixed up here. Okay, I'm not trying to confuse you. When were you first hospitalized after this automobile accident of April 8th, 2009 at Redlands Community Hospital? Oh, you mean like the date? If you know, approximately a year. So in 2010 that you were hospitalized? Yes. And how long were you hospitalized when you were first hospitalized there? This time? In 2010, overnight. Why did you go or why were you admitted? DNC. And that's not connected with the accident? I wouldn't think so. Okay, and I don't mean to be rude to you. I also want to find out what you are claiming by way of damages. So that was for a DNC overnight, and as far as you know, that was not connected with the accident? No. Am I correct? Correct. Have you been admitted as a patient to Redlands Community Hospital since that time? No. Were you a patient at Redlands Community Hospital before the accident? Yes. On how many occasions? Twice. Can you generally tell me how you were hospitalized? DNC. Did any of the 3 hospitalizations, the 2 before the accident and the 1 after the accident, have anything to do with anxiety? No. Did they have anything to do with the complaints of your back? No. Did it have anything to do with the complaints to your neck? No. Have you been hospitalized anywhere else since the accident of April 8, 2009? No. Have you seen, excuse me, weren't you at San Antonio Community Hospital? Yes, I thought he knew about that. She's confused, counsel. That's fine. Okay, I was hospitalized after the accident at San Antonio Community Hospital for 3 months. How soon after the accident? 3 days. So shortly after the accident you were hospitalized? Yes. Why were you hospitalized for that 3-month period? What did you feel? I'm not trying to make you a doctor. Okay, I was terribly afraid to be around anybody, to do anything. I cried a lot. I had a lot of depression. My back hurt. My head hurt terribly. I had terrible nightmares where I would wake up screaming. Had you ever had any feeling of depression before you were hospitalized at San Antonio shortly after the accident? Now, say that again, please. Sure, you've indicated to my inquiry that you were hospitalized for approximately 3 months at San Antonio 3 or 4 days after the accident. You've indicated to me, as far as you know, that why you were a patient at the hospital is that you were afraid of people, that you cried a lot, and you were depressed. Yes. Did you have any of those feelings or similar feelings before the accident? No. Had you ever seen a doctor or a medical person or been hospitalized for depression before the accident of April 8, 2009? No. Had you ever had the feeling of being afraid of people or being afraid of people before April 8, 2009? No. You've indicated that you had, well, I would describe it as virtually uncontrollable crying episodes after the accident. If that's an inaccurate description, correct me, but that's what I understand that you had after the accident. Yes. Okay. Had you had that problem or that condition before the accident of April 8, 2009? No. You're hospitalized for these 3 months. Well, during that period of time, what kind of care or treatment did you receive? I was seen by a psychiatrist every day. I was having therapy for my back, physical therapy, and what was the name of the psychiatrist who was seeing you? At that time, it was Dr. Vogt. How do you spell his last name? V-O-G-T. Do you know his business address? No. Did he see you in the hospital? Yes. Did you ever go to an office apart from the hospital? Yes. And do you recall where that was located? It was located on Mountain. And as far as you know, he is a psychiatrist? Yes. He's dead. He recently died. Has anyone taken over his practice? I don't know. I heard about a year ago that he died. Do you know? No, I don't know. Do either of you know where his records are? I can get them. Well, I think his last office was in Claremont, if I'm not mistaken. He did change offices. Have you seen any psychiatrist other than Dr. Vogt since the accident? Yes. What other psychiatrist have you seen? Dr. Geffen? How do you spell that name? I don't know. Can you pronounce it again? I think it's Geffen, G-E-F-F-E-N. And where is his office located? I believe it's on Mountain and Upland. When did you first see Dr. Geffen? It's been about 6 months. From today? Yes. So sometime in August, sometime last summer, you first saw him? Yes. And was he the first psychiatrist you saw after seeing Dr. Vogt? Yes. When did you last see Dr. Vogt? Let's see. Oh gosh, about 2 years ago. And why did you see Dr. Vogt? 2 years ago? Or yes, generally. In general, why did I see him? Yes, so that he could treat me for my anxiety and depression, and he was a psychiatrist. I don't know what they do. When you saw Dr. Vogt, how often did you see him? Every day during the period I was in the hospital. This was during the 3-month period right shortly after the accident? Yes. After you were discharged from the hospital, how often did you see him, if at all? I didn't see him, but maybe once or twice after. From, let's say, September 1, 2009, which would be 3.5 months after the accident, roughly, probably 4.5, but after you were out of the hospital, did you see any psychiatrist other than did you see any psychiatrist up until you saw Dr. Geffen? No. And then you saw Dr. Geffen starting about 6 months ago? Yes. While you were hospitalized at San Antonio, you mentioned seeing Dr. Vogt, and you also mentioned someone took care of your back, or they were giving me therapy at the hospital. Was there any doctor in charge of your back problems? I believe that was taken care of through Dr. Barrett. Have you seen any other doctors other than Dr. Barrett or Dr. Vogt or Dr. Geffen since the accident? Just a chiropractor. And who is that? Dr. Sasaki. I better have that spelling, Sasaki. And where is he located? Holt Boulevard in Montclair. All right, and that concludes our 225 Q&A practice.